Okay, good morning. My name is Miguel, and I have the honor of opening this fourth year mini conference of simultaneous interpreting course at the School of Linguistic Science. Throughout this event, we will explore fundamental topics of our profession based on the Routledge Handbook of Conference Interpreting. I, I warmly welcome to this academic gathering where we fourth years students will share knowledge and reflection that enrich our training and professional practice in the field of interpreting.
We now call upon Licenciado Elvis Chock to kindly deliver the inaugural remarks of this academic event.
Muchísimas gracias a todos por estar en este mini congreso organizado por los estudiantes de interpretación del cuarto año de la licenciatura de Ciencias Lingüísticas con especialidad en traducción e interpretación. Para mí es un verdadero placer el poder darles la bienvenida a todos nuestros invitados y también a todas las personas que van a estar viendo esta transmisión en diferido. Les anticipamos que será una hora cargada de mucho conocimiento, de aspectos muy importantes que estamos tratando de desarrollar en la Escuela de Ciencias Lingüísticas, pues a través de la lectura de algunos libros que son muy importantes para el desarrollo de las ideas y también la forma en cómo los estudiantes ven la interpretación simultánea a través de los ojos de autores en diferentes partes del mundo. Entonces, a mí me da muchísima alegría el poder darles estas palabras de inauguración y pues les agradecemos su participación y también felicito desde ya a los estudiantes por por este mini congreso que organizaron de forma tan profesional. Es importante que las personas sepan que tenemos interpretación simultánea de parte de los estudiantes del cuarto año y que pueden nada más darle clic a un icono de mundo que está en la parte inferior de Zoom y colocar la interpretación en simultáneo. Muchísimas gracias y podemos continuar.
Thank you very much, Licenciado. With that being said, the purpose of this mini conference is to analyze different aspects of conference interpreting, including the settings, regions, professional challenges, research approaches, and recent developments. This mini conference serves as a platform to integrate theoretical and practical knowledge, as well as communicative and professional skills, preparing future translators and interpreters to perform with ethics and quality.
Now, at the next item on our agenda, I will explain the dynamics and rules of this event. The presentations and their respective speakers will be introduced, along with a brief overview of each topic. We kindly ask you to keep in mind that there will be a round of questions and comments at the end of each presentation. Each intervention should be brief and respectful. If you have a question, please raise your hand so we can give you the floor.
At this time, I invite you to stand and join us in the singing of the university anthem.
Sumus, post succeros, transiderat inferos, ubiam fuere, ubiam fuere. Vita nostra est, redefinitur, vita nostra brevis est, redefinitur, venit mors velociter, rapid nos atrociter, nemini parcetur, nemini parcetur. Viva l'Accademia, viva professores, viva l'Accademia, viva professores, vivat membrum quodlibet, vivat membra credibet, semper sint in flore, semper sint in flore. Viva omnes virgines, faciles formose, viva omnes virgines, faciles formose, viva et mulieres, egale amabiles, bone laboriose, bone laboriose. Viva et res publica, et illam regit, viva et res publica, et illam regit, vivat nostra civitas, mecenatum caritas, que nos hic protegit, que nos hic protegit. Pereat Christitia, pereat cosores, pereat Christitia, pereat cosores, pereat diabolus, vinis antepocios, atque irisores, atque irisores.
Now that we have sung the university anthem, we will have the honor of listening to some relevant topic that are of great importance to our profession. The first topic is titled Settings, presented by Marco Morales. This topic explores how conference interpreting, while sharing core skills and techniques, must adapt to the distance demands, protocols, and communication dynamics of a specific context, such as diplomacy, press conferences, media, and major international institutions like the European Union and the United Nations. The time is yours, Marco.
Conference interpreting at the EU and the UN. European Union. Ladies and gentlemen, esteemed colleagues, good morning. How many languages do you think the European Union speaks today? 24. Yes, a staggering 24 official languages. And that is just within the EU. Now, add to this 5 alphabets and millions of citizens from 27 member states, and you'll quickly see why conference interpreting is not just a service, but the cornerstone of democratic dialogue and transparency in Europe. Today, I want to take you through the world of conference interpreting in the European Union institution, a fascinating, complex, vital profession that truly brings democracy to life. Now, why does it matter? Imagine being in a meeting where every participant, from Madrid to Helsinki, from Lisbon to Warsaw, must fully understand and be understood. The EU, as a democratic organization, has to speak in all their languages. This isn't luxury. This is a fundamental democratic right. Giving everyone a voice and a document in their language ensures legitimacy. It's about more than words. It's about inclusion and respect for cultural identity. Who make this magic happen? Enter the interpreters. The Directorate General for Interpretation at the European Commission coordinates the world's largest interpreting service. And did you know that it started in 1958 with only 4 languages? Now it manages an astounding 24 official languages. The most frequent and working languages remain French, English, and German, our linguistic pillars. Interpreters work with their native language. This is key because mastering your mother tongue is your greatest professional asset. They work with all kinds of settings, from high council ministers meetings to sessions of ONGs and international organizations. What does a day in their life look like? There are 2 main types of interpretation here. First, consecutive interpreting, where the speaker talks, the interpreter takes notes, and delivers the message in the target language. The hero, though, is simultaneous interpreting, which accounts for over 90% of all EU institutions. Sitting in soundproof booths, the interpreter listens in real time and translates as the speaker talks. Imagine the concentration levels needed. A variation is chuchotage or whispering, where the interpreter sits right next to the speaker or the listener. What skills do interpreters need? They aren't just bilingual translators. They are incredible multitaskers with razor-sharp analytical minds, quick reflexes, creativity, and resilience. They must command 3 languages thoroughly, have communication skills, and a deep curiosity about people and politics. Qualifications. The EU requires an impeccable command in 1 language, strong skills in at least 2 other languages, and specialized knowledge qualifications. Candidates must undergo through rigorous selection tests, often of speeches both consecutively and simultaneously, often complex EU topics. How does recruitment work? If you're a freelance interpreter, you take an interinstitutional accreditation test, you pass, and you'll join the EU's roster of interpreters ready to be deployed. Now, for permanent positions, there's a high EPSO, European Personnel Selection Office exam held yearly. Okay. Now, why is this system so important? Because with these processes, the EU guarantees fairness and transparency in recruitment. They ensure that only the best professionals represent the multilingual face of the Union. They ensure that that all communications mirror the EU's commitment for equality and respect for all citizens. Now, let's take a moment. How many languages do you think the European Parliament must handle, given over 700 members in the Parliament? With 24 official languages, means a bewildering 552 possible language pairs. To manage this, the Parliament uses relay languages such as English, French, and German. to efficiently interpret and deliver the message. That's logistics in a linguistic scale few can imagine. During the recent COVID-19 lockdown, guess how they maintain their multilingualism? With an online interpreting service, a pioneering solution that kept democracy alive even when physical meetings were impossible. Now, moving from Europe to a bigger stage, conference interpreting importance extends to the United Nations, where 6 official languages, English, French, Spanish, Arabic, Chinese, Russian, must be seamlessly bridged. Simultaneous interpretation allows hundreds of delegates to communicate without interruption. Interpreters work in pairs or trios, managing intense workloads in soundproof booths. This job requires not only language mastery, but stamina, cultural awareness, and quick adaptability. The United Nations also invests in training programs, especially less common languages, and they also explore technologies like video conferencing and AI-assisted management to optimize their interpreting service across its agencies. Applying this to Guatemala, opportunities and adaptability. So let's bring this closer to our home, to our country, Guatemala. Just as the European Union thrives to uphold inclusion and democracy, Guatemala faces similar challenges and opportunity with its rich linguistic diversity. Guatemala, our country, recognizes over 20 indigenous languages alongside Spanish, each carrying centuries of culture and identity. Just imagine how powerful it would be, the integration of high standards and practices of the EU and the UN in our institutions and international engagements. Guatemalan interpreters who master not only Spanish, but also indigenous languages like Quechua, Quiche, Mam, play a pivotal role ensuring voices from rural and indigenous communities are heard respectfully and clearly on national and international stages. For a Guatemalan interpreter stepping into these settings, adaptability is key. Drawing in the skills integrated by the EU and the UN, such as culture sensitivity, multitasking ability, deep linguistic knowledge, or resilience, interpreters can excel by blending professional interpretation techniques like profound understanding in local traditions and world views. This means going beyond literal translation, acting as cultural bridges, facilitating dialogue between diverse groups. With increasing opportunities for remote interpreting and online platforms, Guatemalan interpreters can now partake more actively for international forums without needing to leave home, widening their impact and further connecting our nation to international conversations. Ultimately, by adopting these international interpreting standards and methods, Guatemalan interpreters not can not only enhance their career, but also contribute to democracy, justice, and social inclusion, going back to our country and beyond. As a conclusion, conference interpreters are more than language mediators. They are pillars of democracy. They are engines of international cooperation. They are guards of inclusivity. The multilingualism in institutions like the EU and the UN is testimony of how critical their role is. Now, next time you hear a diplomat or a commissioner speaking their language, remember the invisible professionals making sure everyone is heard everywhere. Now, who among you is now considering conference interpreting as a career? I thank you your attention, and I invite comments and questions about this fascinating world of conference interpreting.
Okay, we now open this space to hear your questions and comments, kindly asking for respect and brevity. We would like to remind you that this dialogue is an opportunity to enrich our learning. Okay, first one. What are the 6 official languages of the United Nations?
The 6 official languages of the United Nations are English, French, Spanish, Arabic, Chinese, and Russian.
Okay. Second one. What innovation did the European Parliament introduce during COVID-19 lockdown to maintain multilingualism?
During the recent COVID-19 lockdown, the innovation was uh, online interpreting service. It was a solution that kept democracy alive.
Thank you. So we now turn it to Ana Lucia Leiva and Jessica Set on the topic regions, offering a global perspective on conference interpreting by examining how historical, cultural, political, and institutional contexts shape the profession's practice and development in diverse parts of the world, covering regions such as the United States, Russia, Japan, South Korea, Australia, China, India, Africa, and Brazil. The time is yours, Gibbs.
Thank you, Jennifer, and good morning. Welcome you all. My name is Yesenia, and we will be discussing conference interpreting, evolution, and global perspectives. Okay. In the US, conference interpreting has gone through an impressive transformation. It started with interpreters standing next to its speakers, working consecutively, then moved into its soundproof booths for simultaneous interpreting. And today, it extends through remote setups. These changes have expanded opportunities such as reaching wider global audiences, but also brought new challenges, including the need to master technology, adapt to multiple platforms, and maintain ongoing professional training. With the rise of virtual and hybrid events, interpreters must now combine linguistic expertise with business skills like contract negotiation and liability management. Organizations such as the National Association of Interpreters in AI and the Globalization and Localization Association GALI play a key role in this process by providing training, networking, and industry insights. The COVID-19 pandemic marked a turning point. On-site interpreting dropped by nearly 70%, but remote interpreting surged, forcing the profession to embrace new technologies and reshaping how services are delivered worldwide. Looking at specific regions, Russia stands out for its long and prestigious tradition. Simultaneous interpreting was first introduced in 1928 and reached international recognition during the Nuremberg trials of 1945. Today, Russia counts around 300 professional simultaneous interpreters and thousands of consecutive interpreters active in diplomacy, trade, law, and energy. More than 50 universities train interpreters through rigorous programs combining theory, practice, technology, and specialization. Professional growth is also supported by initiatives like the Translation Forum Russia. In practice, simultaneous interpreting is the preferred mode for fast-paced events, while consecutive interpreting is chosen for formal or dialect-heavy situations. Given the complexity and diversity of the Russian language, cultural awareness and strong linguistic skills are essential. Thank you.
Now turning to Japan, conference interpreting emerged in late 1950s, gaining momentum with the major milestones like 1964 Tokyo Olympics, the 1970 Osaka Expo, and even the broadcast of the Apollo moon landing. Most interpreters work freelance through agencies and specialized training schools, along with graduate programs since 1990s, have professionalized the field. Today, English-Japanese is the most in-demand language pair, with about 500 active interpreters. The Japan Association of Conference Interpreting, JACI, and other associations provide professional representation. After the pandemic, remote interpreting grew rapidly, and conference sign language interpreting has also begun to expand. Despite new technologies, demand for English Japanese interpreters remains constantly high. Finally, in Guatemala, conference interpreting is a smaller but steadily developing field. Professionals and companies such as Traductores e Intérpretes GT and Interinterpreters provide services for conferences and events. A key institution is the Guatemalan Association of Interpreters and Translators, AHIT by its acronym in Spanish, which has been active for over 50 years. Unlike an agency, AHIT serves a professional hub. It provides training, updates, and an interpreter directory while maintaining international connections. Beyond conferences, Guatemala has modernized its legal interpreting framework, focusing on social justice and the protection of human rights, supported by the Constitution and international treaties. Across this diverse context, from the historical prestige of Russia to Japan's professionalism model and Guatemala's growing efforts, one lesson is clear. Conference interpreting is no longer just about translation words. It is about cultural sensitivity, technological adaptability, and continuous professional development. Whether in a booth, face-to-face, or online, interpreters remain essential bridges of global communications. Thank you.
Thank you very much for such a nice, interesting topic. It's nothing new that the pandemic has transformed conference interpreting, driving a rapid shift toward remote modalities. Also, technological innovation and continuous training became decisive factors for adaptation. The future of the field will depend on balancing technological efficiency with the human value and also with interpreters. So now we continue with the questions.
All right. Now, the questions are the following. First one. In a world where technology is reshaping interpreting, how can interpreters ensure the human value remains at the center of the profession?
Interpreters can ensure their human value remains central by adapting to technological innovations without allowing these to replace their skills. Maintaining high quality standards, engaging in continuous training and specialization, and fostering professional collaboration while educating clients on the importance of human expertise over mere technological tools.
Okay. Second, how much unequal access to training and resources in different regions impact the future of multilingual communication?
Unequal access to training and resources across regions can create a gap in the quality and availability of interpreting services, limiting the development of multilingual policies and affecting equitable participation in international events. This could perpetuate fragmented markets with underqualified interpreters in certain areas and restrict the representation of less dominant languages.
Thank you. So moving on to the next topic, we have Diana Fernandez and Jessica Corti with the topic professional issues, which addresses the working, ethical, and organizational conditions of conference interpreting. It includes aspects such as professional standards, codes of conduct, remuneration, continuing education, relationship with employers and clients, and the impact of globalization and technology in practice. It also analyzes the challenges of maintaining quality standards, managing pressure and stress, and adapting to changing environmental, highlighting the need of interpreters to defend their professional role and promote best practices in the industry. Go ahead, please.
Good morning, everyone. It's a truly pleasure to be here with you today. As students of interpretation here in Guatemala, our aim is to share these ideas Before we start, we want to highlight that quality is not a simple concept. We often hear people say that interpreting is either good or bad, but the reality is more richer and more complex. Quality is shaped by the expectation from clients and audience, the impact of external factors, the findings of empirical research, and the norms that guide professional practice. In Guatemala, interpreting is still a young profession. Clients may not always know what to expect, and sometimes they focus on the surface, like the fluency or the accent, without realizing that the real quality depends on much deeper factors. Expectations are often subjective. For instance, a corporate client in Guatemala may want perfect financial terminology, or in a university, the audience engagement more than technical precision. But empirical give us objective tools, such as fidelity for the message, terminological accuracy, coherence and cohesion, fluency, and pace. What sounds eloquent to an audience may not actually be accurate. In one study mentioned in the level of comfort interpreting, an interpreter received positive feedback from listeners but had omitted crucial details due to the speaker's speed. Quality must be evaluated carefully, not just perceived at first glance.
Okay, so now we know that quality is not only about the interpreter's skills, it is shaped by external conditions and by the tools we had available. Here in Guatemala, many of us have experienced situations where the microphone didn't work properly, the speaker had a strong accent, or spoke too quickly. The venue lacked proper soundproof booths. So here, no matter how prepared the interpreter is, quality depends on both the interpreter and the event's organization. Now, technology has transformed the field. ET tools analyze quality more precisely, so they can compare hundreds of recording, measure pauses and speech rates automatically. They can use eye tracking to understand how interpreters process the information. For us as a student in Guatemala, this is encouraging. But why? Because this shows that the profession is advising scientifically. One day, these tools may help our training, giving us feedback beyond what the human ear can catch. So, for many years, research ignored the social context for interpreting. But now we understand that quality is also a social construct. If an interpreter for the United Nations or an international NGO, people often assume the interpretation is high quality, even if they didn't listen closely. Prestige, visibility, and even attire can influence perception. So, finally, norms. What is this? This is the backbone of our profession, like the rule of having two interpreters for long simultaneous assignments. This is not a luxury. It prevents fatigue and ensures quality. We have the norm of confidentiality that protects trust, which is essential. And the last but no less important, the norm of preparation. Remind us that studying the topic in advance is not optional. It is a professional duty.
Okay. Now we have the following questions. How can we, as students in Guatemala, help raise awareness among clients so they understand that quality in interpreting goes beyond fluency or accent?
As students in Guatemala can raise awareness by explaining to clients that quality in interpreting is not limited to fluency or the accent. It also includes faithfulness to the message, accuracy, and consistency. We can use examples from our own training or from our research to show how an interpretation that sounds good may sometimes leave out important information. In this way, we can help them to understand that the true quality lies in conveying the message faithfully and ethically.
Okay. Second, in your opinion, which of the external factors, such as technology, events organization, or social perception, currently has the greatest impact on interpreting quality in Guatemala?
For nowadays, I consider that the factor of the organization of the event is the one that had more impact in the quality of interpretation here in Guatemala. Even though the interpreter is well prepared, even the sound could not be working or don't have the tools necessary, or the spokesperson will be talking too fast, so the event will be affected. So now technology and social perception always influence if there is a good qualities condition to give a um, good quality of work of the work.
Thank you so much. After analyzing the professional challenges in conference interpreting, we will now delve into the theoretical and empirical research perspectives that enrich this discipline. This will be presented by Andrea Velázquez. In this session, the theoretical and empirical perspectives on conference interpreting will be addressed, focusing on cognitive processes, strategies, and the influence of professional experience. It will also analyze the impact of stress, emotions, and gender on interpreter performance. Additionally, technological methods such as corpus studies, eye tracking, and neuroimaging will be presented, which allow for a better understanding of interpreting and the improvement of its practice. With this integrated vision, it aims to offer a clear and updated understanding to foster the development and optimization of the interpreter's work. The time is yours, Andrea.
Thank you very much. All right, good morning, everyone. Today, I want to take you into the fascinating and sometimes exhausting world of conference interpreting. We'll explore how our brains handle the heavy cognitive load of simultaneous interpreting. We'll explore and as well the role of working memory, the power of prediction, and the strategies interpreters use to manage their mental resources. Let's start with working memory. In simple terms, it's like the brain's temporary workspace, a place where we store and manipulate information just long enough to use it. In simultaneous interpreting, you are listening to the speaker in one language, processing the meaning, and producing it in another language, all at the same time. That's a lot to juggle and puts a huge demand on working memory. Research shows that trainee interpreters' working memory capacity improves during their training, sometimes reaching the level of experienced professionals. This is not necessarily because of years of experience, but because of the intense mental training that interpreting demands. Interestingly, professional interpreters often rely less on sheer memory capacity and more on specialized strategies that reduce the mental load. Strategies like predicting the next part of the speech or encoding ideas semantically instead of memorizing every word. That brings me to prediction and anticipation. Language processing doesn't just go one way from the ears to the brain, it also works top down. We use context, background knowledge, and linguistic patterns to predict what's coming next. In interpreting, especially between languages with very different sentence structures, like German and English, prediction is crucial. For example, in German, the verb comes often at the end of the sentence. That means an interpreter into English might have to predict the verb before actually hearing it, so they can produce a grammatically correct English sentence without long pauses. Studies have shown that professional interpreters are generally better at making exact predictions than trainees. They can anticipate not only the general idea, but the exact words, thanks to strong mental connections between the source and the target language. This skill is built through experience and is supported by a high working memory capacity, which helps store pre-verbal information until it can be used. Now, prediction can be extra linguistic, based on context and word knowledge. For instance, knowing the topic of a conference and the likely terminology, or linguistic, based on language patterns and probability. Both types work together to make interpreting smoother and faster. Finally, let's talk about capacity management strategies. Interpreting is like having several apps open on your mental computer at once, and all of them are using the same battery. You have to decide where to allocate your processing power. Professional interpreters develop automatic strategies to manage these resources. And some examples include segmentation, which is breaking the speech into smaller, manageable units, compression, that is shortening long sentences without losing meaning. We have anticipation, as we discussed, predicting upcoming words or ideas, and the use of fillers or reformulations to buy time. Beginners tend to get stuck when they don't understand a part of the speech, while experts can keep going using context to fill in the gaps. Experts also plan their output globally, thinking about the overall message, whereas novices often focus on translating word by word. Beyond these strategies, interpreters also develop resilience and multitasking skills. They must handle background noise, fast speakers, and unexpected turns of phrase without losing focus. At the same time, they monitor their own output to make sure it is clear, accurate, and appropriate for the audience. This constant self monitoring adds another layer of complexity to the task, showing how demanding and adaptive the interpreter's role really is. Another important factor is stress management. Interpreting in real time is stressful by nature. Your brain is working at full speed, and mistakes can be very visible. Professional interpreters learn breathing techniques, pacing strategies, and even micro pauses to stay calm and avoid mental fatigue. Stress management is not just about comfort, it directly impacts performance and accuracy. Finally, technology is becoming an increasingly important tool for interpreters. From digital glossaries and computer assisted interpreting tools to remote platforms, technology can support memory, prediction, and efficiency. However, it also brings challenges such as divided attention and technical difficulties. The best interpreters find a balance. They use technology as an aid, but they never let it replace the core cognitive skills that make interpreting possible. In conclusion, conference interpreting is not just about knowing two languages. It's about mastering cognitive skills. Working memory gives interpreters the mental space to hold the process information. Prediction allows them to stay ahead of the speaker, and strategies for capacity management ensure they can keep going even under pressure. So, next time you see an interpreter working behind the scenes, remember, you're not just watching someone translate. You are witnessing a highly trained brain perform one of the most demanding cognitive juggling acts in the world. Thank you.
Okay, we now open the space for your questions and comments. Okay, first one. What role does working memory play in simultaneous interpreting?
Working memory functions as a temporary space where the interpreter stores and processes the information being heard. in order to produce it in another language at the same time. This is essential for managing the cognitive load of simultaneous interpreting.
Okay. Second, why is prediction important in conference interpreting?
Well, prediction allows the interpreter to anticipate future words or ideas by using context and prior knowledge. This helps maintain fluency, especially when the structures of the source and target languages differ significantly. As is in the case, as I told, the German and English example.
Thank you so much. Having concluded the review of the scientific foundation and the professional abilities, we now turn our attention to the innovation and emerging trends that are shaping the future of conference interpreting. This topic will be presented by Celeste Gonzalez. Recent developments address emerging trends and innovations in conference interpreting, including remote interpreting, new technologies, online media interaction among professionals and researchers, the role of English as a lingua franca, and the use of mindfulness training to support interpreters' well-being and performance. This group will demonstrate how interpreting adapts and innovates in an increasingly digital and connected world. The time is yours, Celeste.
Thank you. Good morning to everyone present. Today, I have the honor of presenting the classic topic of this mini Congress on recent developments in conference interpreting. We will say that this is a comprehensive overview of the most recent changes that are transforming the field based on the latest academic and professional perspectives. Essentially, there are 5 key developments shaping our profession now. These are not isolated trends, but transformative forces that redefine how we work, how we connect with others, and how we take care of ourselves as a conference interpreters. Conference interpret has always been a dynamic field, but in recent years, change has accelerated dramatically. Technological innovation, the globalization of the market, and the transformation of work modalities are reshaping the profession in ways never seen before. So now let's start with the first key development, distance conference interpreting. In the last decade, and especially since the COVID-19 pandemic, remote interpreting has shifted from being occasional solution to an essential part of the industry. Remote simultaneous interpreted in hybrid formats where interpreters, speakers, and audience are located on different continents around the world. So we are removing geographical barriers and reducing costs. But this is also redefining our role. We now work in virtual booths, manage our own technical setups, and depend on stable internet connections. Communication with our booth partner has moved from discrete notes to instant messaging platforms such as WhatsApp. The challenge is to maintain team cohesion, speech fluency, and audience engagement in a physically disconnected environment. In other words, I would say our work setting has completely changed. And now let's move on to the conference interpreting and new technologies. Our profession finds itself at a technological crossroads. Computer assisted interpreting tools centralize terminology and store context rich glossaries and provide quick reference during live work. And for example, we have automatic speech recognition that transcribes in real time and machine learning that can predict terms or suggest equivalents right away. These applications support interpreters in efficient terminology management. Quick glossaries, for example, help us to access during interpreting and post-performance review. In training, virtual reality stimulations replicate high-pressure scenarios. And there are AI-assisted note-taking tools, for example, and an advanced speech recognition systems. While these tools do not replace the interpreter's judgment, our interpreter judgment, they strengthen our preparation, consistency, and adaptability in increasingly digital work environments. And now, let's talk about bridging the gap between conference interpreters and researchers with online media. Despite decades of research on cognition, fatigue, ergonomics, and ethics of interpretation, a gap still exists between academia and the booth. Many times, what researchers discover about interpreting does not reach us. The interpreters working in real life conditions. This may be because the language used in research is too technical, or maybe because we lack the time to read these studies. Of course, we always say in this that we don't have time to read these studies, or we always making excuses about it. But the proposal is so simple. Use online media such as podcasts, webinars, or maybe videos to explain research findings in a clear and a practical way. This way, research can be applied in real work, for example, and we can also provide feedback to researchers. And then let's talk about conference interpreting and English as a lingua franca. Well, this is not something new. In today's conferences, English often serves as the common language among non-native speakers. This changes the rules. Interpreters face diverse accents, non-standard grammar, and communication styles influenced by culture. And now I'm going to ask you a question. Oh, I'm going to put you to think. Have you ever imagined doing an Indian or Australian accent speech interpretation? Well, if you not, start preparing because this is going to happen sooner or later. In EF context, a strict literalism can hinder understanding. The priority is communicative clarity, which sometimes involves simplifying, for example, or rephrasing. The goal is not to correct. We have to keep this in mind because the goal is not to correct the speaker, but to ensure that meaning flows smoothly across languages and cultures. And last but not least, let's talk about mindfulness training for conference interpreters. Conference interpreting demands intense concentration, emotional regulation, and quick decision making. Attention training, rooted in mindfulness, provides mental tools to remain present under pressure. By cultivating focus awareness, the interpreter can reduce anxiety, manage fatigue, and recover more quickly between sessions. Scientific evidence supports its benefits. We can have better memory retention, sharper listening, and increased resilience. In an era of rapid change, mental clarity is as important as a linguistic competence. But now, let's talk about the interpreter well-being, because little is said about the interpreter well-being. Remote and hybrid work poses challenges to interpreters. We're talking about physical, cognitive, and emotional health. Long hours in front of screens, poor audio, tools that may impact our hearing and reduce interaction with colleagues. All contribute to fatigue and stress. That profession is responded with new standards on schedules, breaks, and ergonomics. And now, as a conclusion, we can say that these five developments show a profession in transformation. For example, now we work remotely without losing connection. We use technology without abandoning our human essence. We bridge academia and practice. We adapt to a truly global English and we care for our minds as much as our words. In a fast evolving profession, I want to conclude that continuous training is no longer optional. We have to keep this in mind because we must update ourselves technologically and specialize further. Adaptability and lifelong learning are key to remaining relevant and competitive in this field. Recent developments in conference interpreting represent both opportunities and challenges. Technology is transforming our professional practice. However, the essence of work, the human ability to convey meaning between language and cultures, remains irreplaceable. So I will say that our future success will depend on embracing innovation and inclusion without losing the core values of our profession. Thank you very much.
All right. We now open this space to hear your questions and comments. Okay, first one. What are the main challenges that conference interpreters face when working in a remote or hybrid formats?
I will say interpreters must adapt to working in virtual booths, manage their own technical equipment, and rely on stable internet connections, as I was saying. In addition, they need to maintain team cohesion, speech fluency, and audience engagement in a physically disconnected environment, often using instant messaging platforms to communicate with their booth partners. Thank you very much for your question.
Okay, we have another one. What benefits does mindfulness training bring to conference interpreters?
Well, regarding this question, I would say mindfulness training helps interpreters maintain focus under pressure, reduce anxiety, manage fatigue, and recover quickly between sessions. This translates into better memory retention, sharper listening skills, and greater mental resilience. Thank you.
Thank you. So this mini conference has allowed us to reflect on the diverse dimensions of conference interpreting, from its settings and regional practices to the professionals, ethical, and also research perspective that shape the field. We have also explored how innovation, technology, and recent developments are transforming our profession while reaffirming the essential human value of interpreters. As future professionals, we are reminded that true quality lies in balancing knowledge and ethics, adaptability, and collaboration to meet the challenges of an evolving world. Thank you.
Now, we would like to express our deepest gratitude to all the presenters and organizers of this academic event. Therefore, today we are pleased to present these digital certificates as a sign of our appreciation and encouragement. You will see the link to the certificate in the comments section below.
Before concluding, we kindly invite our participants and presenters to turn on their cameras if they are not already, for the official group photo as a way to preserve a memory of this academic event.
To conclude, we
Thank
thank
you.
every one of you for your presence and commitment throughout this mini conference. We're also grateful for the effort and dedication of the presenters, whose contributions have provided valuable knowledge that enriches our academic training in conference interpreting. We extend our appreciation to the audience for your attention and enthusiasm. We deeply value the work and commitment of each organizing committee, whose efforts ensured that everything unfolded with order and professionalism. We hope this space has been meaningful for each of you and that the knowledge shared here will inspire and support your professional journey. Thank you all very much for your participation and support.